Hello, everyone, and welcome to the third Bxb'S bonus Babble. This one is a special edition, though, because we are doing E3 predictions, and I'm not alone. I have my E3 co-pilot, because Joel is here, and he is going to be sticking with me for our entire suite of E3 coverage that's coming up, and this is the first part of it. So to explain that a little bit, I'm going to say hello, Joel, before I get into it. Hello, Joel.
Hello, everybody.
See, look, I'm not by myself. God, it's so nice to have a friend. Yeah, so basically we're going to be doing this show, which is going to go up tonight, Friday night. We're going to have Saturday off, and then we're going to have a show Sunday night. We're going to have a show Monday night. We're going to have a show Tuesday night. So that each show, about an hour in length, maybe a bit less, is going to talk about the conferences that happened prior to that, at 2 a.m. and whatever. And we're going to go through each conference today. We're going to talk about, the order they're going to be on, what day they're going to be on. We're going to let you know the times in the UK so you can watch along with us. So yeah, basically we're going to expect all these shows. I'm going to be doing a live tweeting of each conference. And in addition to that, there'll be a wrap up post for each conference, which will usually be filled with all the trailers from that particular conference and some op-ed stuff from me as well, if I'm feeling sassy and if I have enough energy, which is very questionable at this point. So before we dive straight into E3, Joel, I think it would be remiss of us not to mention the general election we just had. Though this isn't a Bits and Bobs episode, that will be coming next week, at the end of next week, where we'll look back at all of E3. But I'm sure Richard would love to be able to be here to talk about the election. But me and you, Joel, we can just mention that this happened. It would seem a lot of young people got out to vote, which is brilliant. I'm super happy about that. And we even had a relatively positive result, didn't we?
Yeah, so turnout was up. I guess that's kind of positive on the election front, and I think it really shows that the country is still kind of pretty much divided now down the middle on some big issues. So, and the positive spin is like when things like things like this in Parliament are much closer, things get debated more, and hopefully what goes through legislation wise will at least be a reasonable compromise from all sides. So yeah, I think it's interesting to see. The one thing is to see how this coalition works. If we'll be all at the polls again in August or October, but let's wait and see.
Well, so I think something a lot of people don't realise who aren't massively involved with politics is that in Europe, most I'd say European nations use a different form of electoral system. They use proportional representation, and what that usually results in, more often than not, are parliaments made up of a great deal more parties. With a much more even spread of the representation. So instead of having mostly Tories and mostly Labour, you'd have 3 or 4 parties with a more equal selection, which means basically all of those governments would be coalition governments for all intents and purposes. It means all the parties end up having to work more closely together, and therefore democracy is kind of more active, and therefore things are more checked, more, there's more balances, and it's a bit fairer, and less weird, crazy shit happens. But because of our first past the post system, we get these often conservative or Labour-dominated governments, which means you get that particular agenda forced through Parliament without much in the way of alteration. So with this result we've got here, with this hung Parliament, which is resulting in coalitions and deals, and we don't really know what's going to happen yet. Like Joel said, we might actually get a more democratically representative sort of government with who knows, with better things that can come out of it. This is a very positive result in my opinion. So I'm pretty happy about this, Joel. What about you? Do you agree with me? Am I talking bullshit? What do you think? I mean,
I think it's relatively positive. For all the major parties involved, I agree with certain aspects of what they have to say. I disagree with others. There's kind of no party that sadly fits everything that I exactly believe in and want. But yeah, I think the one thing I'm really kind of happy about is normally I just think all politicians are absolute scum and slime, but Jeremy Corbyn, I just want to say I feel like is a very genuine person. I think he speaks very much what he has a vision, and he kind of stuck to his guns and just went with that, and I respect that, and I think it's nice. And despite, I think he had a lot of personal attacks and stuff, which in the whole media, he had his the media stabbing him in his chest and his own party stabbing him in the back. And it's kind of nice to have seen him come through that and in a very positive light and stuff. So I think that's one really positive thing about it. I really kind of like him as a guy.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's gonna be weeks. We're supposedly starting this, the leaving the EU debate, deals and stuff. That's meant to be starting next week. So who knows? Who knows what's going to happen? This is all going to be very interesting to see. But more important than who's running the government and who politicians and politics and left and right. More important than all of that, guys. Let's be honest. It's fucking video games, because E3 is about to start. Let's get our priorities right, Joel. We're here for video games. Video games are what make the world go round. And where do we run when we want to ignore reality? Straight to video games. I mean, Richard bought a PSVR as a reaction to Trump winning the election in America. So if ever there's a better example of video games as a place to hide, that's an amazing example. He isn't even here to tell it, but I will recount that story for him. So let's get into these conferences. Let's get into our predictions, and let's start talking about the exciting week or so of games we have coming up ahead of us. So EA, tomorrow night, so that's Saturday night, 8 p.m. You'll be able to watch it on YouTube, Twitch, EA's website. It'll be everywhere. All the major outlets will have mirrors for the stream as well. You can't miss this stuff, basically. You go anywhere, you're going to find it. One thing I noticed when putting together this prediction sheet, Joel, was that other than Microsoft, I feel like there's a lot of very obvious, easy stuff to predict. That stuff that isn't necessarily a surprise. However, we'll try and come up with some wilder stuff, and I tried to come up with a few bits on my list here, but I was really struggling. Like EA, it's going to be Star Wars, isn't it? It's going to be a bunch of Star Wars, yeah?
Battlefront 2 is going to be there. That's a massive IP. They seem to have settled into the sort of 2-year cycle, switching between Battlefield and Battlefront. So this is going to be the second iteration. I really enjoyed the first Battlefront. I thought it was very pretty. It was very arcadey. It was very fun. I know quite a few people were disappointed with the lack of a kind of proper single player campaign and stuff, but I thought the multiplayer was pretty fun. And I know there was also a bit of disappointment with, I think, the amount of content in the initial game compared to what eventually came out of the DLC. But if you're like me and you're a bit late to the party, as in I bought the game and the season pass much later on and got involved, then I think it felt like reasonably an accomplished game then. So yeah, I'm kind of looking forward to the second iteration. Would like to get back in and sort of play that a bit more and stuff. But yeah, it's kind of like this is massively obvious. I don't know if you're keeping your eye on social media and stuff. For the past week, there's been this sort of massive poster going up on the side of what looks like about a 12-story building that's been slowly assembled for Battlefield 2. So this Battlefront 2, sorry. So yeah, this is going to be, I think, EA's major IP. They'll be pushing it. It's going to be curious, I think, which platform they maybe demonstrate it more on. Are they going to go for the PlayStation? Are they going to go with the PC? Or are they going to go with the Xbox? So there's got a bit of curiosity there. But other than that, I think it's going to be straightforward. They've already said it's going to have single player. We already know it's going back to the prequel trilogy, as well as it's pulling in all the new characters from the new current trilogy that's being done, as well as the original. So it's going to span basically all three trilogies. So it sounds like it's going to be loaded with content. We just need to find out a little bit more about how that content's packaged, I guess, in first the launch title, and then what they're going to be adding later on.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, one of the things they did in the early Battlefront games, which was these like galactic conquest modes, where there was the ongoing like campaigns that would scan across multiple maps with multiple objectives and things like that. I'd like to see that come back. The single player looks amazing. I love the concept of the single player, this idea that you start off as like these Imperial Special Forces troopers at the end of Return of the Jedi when they see the second Death Star be destroyed, and then you're going to be playing this story as them from that point all the way up to the new trilogy. So I think that sounds like a really exciting, like, let's play as Imperials who aren't necessarily evil, that see the rebels, like, we saw in Rogue One, as basically insurgent terrorists, and therefore we're going to get the perspective of the Imperials as if you were talking to a SEAL team member in the United States and how they see jihadists and ISIS and stuff like that. And that could be a really interesting narrative to tell if they're allowed to take the gloves off a little bit. because obviously a game like this is a big license. You know, Disney are going to be all over EA to make sure the message is on brand. So it'll be very interesting to see where they can take it. But look, we saw Rogue One. That did some pretty brave stuff with characterization, especially for the rebels. You know, they killers, assassins, and bad people, just as many as good people, made up the rebels. So I think that's a really interesting concept. I look forward to seeing them explore that. But I think beyond Battlefront, we're going to get to see the game that Amy Hennig's working on. I can't remember what studio it is, though. And we might also get to see the game that Respawn are working on, which is the Titanfall developers. And they're both working on Star Wars IP that so far hasn't really been fleshed out. We saw a little bit from Amy Hennig's game at last E3, which looks like some kind of third-person action adventure game, as you'd expect from the creative sort of drive behind the Uncharted series. So I'm thinking maybe like a little bit of a Han Solo character. But what I'm hoping for is we might get, this is my wild prediction for Star Wars, some form of open world RPG type game set in the Star Wars universe. So, you know, in the vein of a Far Cry or in the vein of an Assassin's Creed type environment, but Star Wars. What do you think?
Well, I think they'll certainly be keen to do as much with the license as they've got. So I'm anticipating there'll be, certainly some other offerings of the Star Wars universe. It sounds very kind of appealing to me, but I don't know. Like, I think the big one that there was the previously scrapped Star Wars 13, was it?
Yeah.
I can't remember exactly what the number
Something
was afterwards.
Like that, yeah.
It looked kind of very fast, actiony, kind of Gears of War kind of style cover system sort of thing. That looked very very interesting and attractive. And I can't help but wonder if they might try and revive some of that formula into something. But yeah, I don't know. It's I'm kind of reluctant to speculate a bit too much, because I also don't think they'll want to detract too much away from Battlefront 2. I think they'll want to be pushing that as their big IP. They may have something else in the background to align with the release of Star Wars Episode 8 later this year as well.
Well, I mean, if you think this Battlefront is like Battlefield, so that's their multiplayer. That's the main thing. Focus of that is the multiplayer, right? That's the main hook. So this other game would be, the main hook is the 40, 50 hour single player experience, you know, which EA doesn't really have in that vein. The excitement for me is Respawn, because Titanfall 2 is one of the best playing games of last year. Just the way that game plays makes me say to me, these guys know how to make games that feel great, right? So I'm excited to see what they do, whatever it is. And then we've got Amy Hennig, who made one of the greatest series of narrative action adventure games ever conceived in the Uncharted series. So there's incredible talent right there as well. So again, whatever it is, who am I kidding? It's Star Wars. So whatever it is, I'll buy it. But having these creators on it, it gets me pretty hyped. I believe Jade Raymond might be involved as well. EA, if I remember rightly. I believe she's at EA now as well. So, you know, who knows? I know we're going to get Battlefront, but I think we're going to get something else. And it won't be this year, but it could be fall next year. I think we're going to get some dates, or at least some windows of release. So for some of these games as well. So I'm pretty excited about that. Now, weirdly, something I'm excited about, I'm going to segue, which you wouldn't think I would be excited about, because I'm not a big football fan, but I was really impressed with the journey mode in FIFA 17. Like, seriously, it was an impressive thing they did with that. Like, really working a compelling, well-written, enjoyable story mode into a football game. So I'm actually kind of hyped to see what they're going to do in FIFA 18. I don't know how you feel about that, Joel. I mean, are you give any shit?
Yeah, no. I sports games I notoriously barely ever really play, to be honest. They don't kind of appeal to me as much as other genres of games. But FIFA is there are lots. Yeah, there's sort of the story mode I know a bit about, and sort of your rise up through the footballing ranks, isn't it, to become a kind of professional? You play the role of a footballer, basically. And then alongside that, they've also got their incredibly popular team mode. What's it called?
Ultimate Team?
that's it. Ultimate Team. Is also incredibly popular.
Huge.
And yeah,
Huge.
with the cards and everything that goes with that. So they'll definitely be trying to advance those features forwards, I think. As well as obviously try and spruce it up. It'll be the second iteration, I think, based on the Frostbite engine. So certainly expect some of the old sort of the previous issues to be ironed out there and refined. And yeah, time frame puts it, well, I guess speculatively around, we may see this could be a good 4K title, particularly PS4 Pro and the impending Scorpio potentially as well.
Well, there's an interesting thing because EA is first. EA is before Microsoft's conference, so I don't think they can openly show anything at their conference on a Scorpio. Activision is in very deep in bed with Sony, so I feel like Microsoft has already got a good relationship with EA. Like they've had co-marketing deals and stuff in the last year.
Well, the EA Access,
then maybe they're going to show, EA Access.
That's a massive relationship they have there with that.
So maybe at Microsoft's conference, we're going to see some more EA games show up running on Scorpio, better on Scorpio, that kind of thing, that kind of marketing. I could definitely see that potentially happening in the Battlefront. The rumor going around with Battlefront is it's going to be 60 4K on the Scorpio. Now, I've been hearing this on the interwebs. I don't know how reliable it is, but if they could come out with that at Microsoft, that could be a real winner, because that would be a hell of a showcase for the hardware if they can do that. So anyway, we should back onto EA. Yep. The other rumor is that the story mode of FIFA is going to show up in other EA sports games, like Madden, potentially, and the NHLs and things like that. They're going to basically, the big push this year is going to be, let's get narrative into all of our sports games, because it opens up a new avenue. And it really made me interested in that football game. I've basically always played the FIFA game, like for a little bit every year, just because it's a childhood thing. I used to be into football when I was a kid. But yeah, this year I really engaged with that journey mode. And I think it's really cool that they did that. I'd be interested to see if they could do it with the other sports games and do it as well.
Imagine how awesome a golf game would be, where you play the character, where you get to fall asleep in your car because you've overdosed on drugs or something, and you get to, it could be fantastic, especially if you get all those fun off the course action moments embedded in there.
I think you're referring to a certain Mr. Woods, aren't you? But anyway,
I think they've already shed him. It's all Rory McIlroy. McIlroy now, isn't it?
Saying that, I played that game for review, that McIlroy game. It was really bad, but and I actually like a good golf game, and it wasn't one. So hopefully they don't do that again. All right, so moving on to not really a prediction, because like Battlefront, we know it's going to be there. Need for Speed Payback. I mean, do you care? Did you play the last Need for Speed game? I mean,
no, I haven't played Need for Speed since Underground, which was quite a long time ago, over a decade. Underground was great and felt fresh and stuff, but now they're going up against Forza, which is I know that's a Microsoft exclusive, but you've also got Gran Turismo's, didn't really hit the mark of its last iteration, so they're going to be making a massive push to get it right this time, and especially with Forza, they definitely want something that can be competitive there. And then you've also got Project Cars, the second version of that's coming along, so it'll be interesting to see what they do to differentiate it. But maybe, like as with the sports games, they'll focus really heavily on a kind of narrative story approach to it, for sort of
the vibe I think they're going for is going to be Fast and Furious. It's going to be family. It's going to be heists. It's going to be, it's going to be that kind of camaraderie. That could be really cool. And that, if that's what they're doing, would differentiate that in a really fun way. I'm a massive fan of that series of films. So if it's basically Fast and Furious without the license and they can nail it, I'm in. That's cool. Dude, I'd play that. So.
Yeah, I think as long as they don't go for a straight up racing game, I don't think they'll beat the establishment on that. But yeah, that could be a very differentiating factor, and that's where they could, find a nice slot for themselves with something that, perhaps people are yearning for a bit.
Yeah, absolutely. We're getting towards the end of EA, because it's kind of like, I think there's probably going to be something we don't expect. I think we'll probably get a really far out new IP, something that's a long way off, and I think what that might be is Dylan from BioWare, because right now BioWare is a little bit tarnished, and I think they need to sort of, get the luster back on that studio, get the confidence back in. Dylan, I think, is multiple years away still. It'll be at least the end of 2018. But you know, we're going to have probably a Dragon Age before that. So I think to get the kind of mind share back into a positive place for BioWare, I think maybe they show some Dylan. A bit more than they did 2 years ago anyway, which was like a bunch of like concept art almost. We don't know what Dylan is. We don't know anything about it. We just know it's a different kind of RPG type situation, but they've also bandied about talking about it being kind of EA's Destiny. So I don't really understand. It's BioWare, what are they doing there? They're making a shooter. They're making some kind of connected MMO-esque world, maybe. So, you know, the rumor is that it's not sci-fi, it's not fantasy, so it's something else. So it's quite exciting that you know, BioWare have got a good pedigree. They might have had some missteps recently, but what do you think?
Well, I've just pulled up a fact sheet about it just to quickly refresh my memory and stuff. And yeah, it looks like EA will be looking for something to plug their own answer to A, Destiny, and B, The Division. Those sort of that's the category. That's the category.
So yeah, what's The Division? I don't remember The Division.
Very apt, but you know, that's the kind of thing they want to plug. They want to kind of multiplayer, looty, grindy experience with some raids and stuff like that. Something with lots of stickiness, so players keep coming back and you know, get good attachment. So they'll be looking for something there. But yeah, it's apparently delayed until April 2018 at the earliest, but it's very much in that window for a very early sneak peek. And you know, it's not within the realms of impossibility, but they'll show it now. And you know, it's going to be kind of looking towards the end of next year, because obviously they're not going to show Battlefield. Everyone knows they'll be working on it, but you've got Battlefront. They don't want to cannibalize that or confuse things by showing the next Battlefield as well. So it won't see that until early next year. So yeah, they'll want to sneak something else out there.
I can see it coming out, closing the show, right? Cold open, bunch of imagery, you don't know what it is. Right at the end, they give the title, and you're like, I still don't know what it is, and then it goes BioWare, and then that's when you realize it's the new BioWare IP. What was Dylan? So that way they can announce a new IP, and they can also announce the new BioWare IP, you know, at the same time. I can see that closing. You know what I mean?
So the other interesting thing, probably just whilst we're talking about Electronics Arts, is that this is going to be Peter Moore's not there anymore.
So sad.
He finished at the start of this month. So it's going to be a case of who's going to step up and fill his boots. You know, will they be as imposing on the stage, as confident and stuff? That's going to be interesting to see. It's going to be.
Well, he only did the sports stuff though, didn't he? The last few years.
Can't quite remember. I can remember he seemed to.
Yeah. He was the chief competition officer.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, he was.
So he didn't do the whole show. Some dude in a suit who wasn't him did the most of it. I don't know who any of them are anymore.
So we think Suit Dude may now have a more prominent role.
Yeah, doing a lot more. I miss Peter Moore already. I mean, he was such a. You'd always pay attention to Peter Moore when he'd come out onto the stage. You'd always get hyped, and he always make you interested in the games you wouldn't normally give a shit about, like Madden. And I'd be like, I want to play Madden this year because Peter thinks it's amazing. So I'm going to check out Madden because he was like the ultimate car salesman, wasn't he? He could sell you a lump of coal and he'd convince you it was amazing. You know, he just a great personality for the games industry. I'd be having fun at Liverpool. So.
All right.
The one other, I was going to just throw this out quickly. You tell me if I'm crazy. The one other little thing I think we might get is Mass Effect Andromeda DLC for single player announcement. As if them to say we aren't done with this. This is gonna happen. This is still gonna happen.
I'm not sure. So yeah, they will talk about Mass Effect. I don't think they'll pretend like it didn't exist and it's done and dusted. I think there'll be some mentioning of it. I'm just not sure where they're going to go with it. It might be just limited to some updates to the multiplayer, some new maps, and some sort of advancements there, or if they will try and, you know, include a new extension to the single player campaign. I think they'll definitely mention it. What they're going to talk about, though, my hunch leads me to think they might just concentrate a bit more on the multiplayer and do some small sort of iterative kind of DLC update, and might just avoid the single player altogether.
I don't know. I mean, I played that hard, right? We played the multiplayer hard for a while there in that 2-week window, but I haven't gone back. I haven't touched it. And I don't think anybody else has really, to be honest. But anyway, we should move on to Microsoft.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, this to me is easily the most exciting conference of the show because we're getting hardware, and hardware is always exciting, always, right? And they're going to open with it, yeah. I mean, they've got to, don't you think?
Yes. So just for, this is on Sunday at 10 p.m.
Yes,
so
well done. Thank you.
British summer time. So for those who want to watch it live, like I will be, it will be broadcast. You can watch it on your Xbox Live. It'll also be on Twitch. No, it won't be on Twitch. I don't think it'll be on Mixer. I expect.
They're giving prizes and stuff if you watch it on Mixer as well. So do that if you can. I won't be able to because I'll be live tweeting and doing screen grabs and stuff like that. But yeah, prizes and stuff. That's a cool incentive. I dig that.
Yeah,
so
it's a nice giveaway and things. Oh, yeah, that's the funny thing is I don't think they'll talk too much actually about the specs of the hardware. I think the real that's out the way now. They've done and dusted that. I think they strategically wanted to get it out. They wanted to get it in front of some of the industry's most renowned critics. Get it signed off that way. It's all done and dusted. We know what the specs are principally going to be. This is going to be a kind of more of a look at the console, although I think we all know what the case kind of look like anyway, and this is going to be about the games. They need to give me a reason to buy one. Now, being a sucker for video games consoles anyway, I'll probably buy one regardless. But they need a Breath of the Wild or some killer app.
All right, let's go through the things, right?
Yeah,
we're gonna get a name. I think it's either going to be they keep Scorpio because they've actually been doing a lot more marketing with the code name than I've ever seen before. So I think potentially that could be the final name, or Xbox One Elite. That's my other shout. What do you think? You got a name shout you want to put out in the hat?
No, in fact, until you wrote that down in the notes beforehand, I didn't even click to think that it hasn't actually got anything other than its internal project name at the moment. So yeah, I don't know. Like maybe just the cynic in me just thinks they may just call it the new Xbox.
just Xbox.
Well,
just
no, the new
nothing.
Xbox, like Apple.
Oh, like iPads.
Yeah, just decided to call it the new iPad or something. They may even just call it Xbox One. They may not. The Elite type, the Elite thing on the end might give it something, but they might just try and. I wonder if they'll just try and keep the Xbox. Or maybe just go to Xbox only, and just every year, every couple of years, they'll be launching a hardware refresh, and they'll just stick with that name for it.
It's a valid shout. It's a valid shout. Okay, so date. My window is late October. That's my prediction.
Now, the key, I'm late October. It's definitely going to be before November. I think they're going to want to have it out there before games like Call of Duty and Battle. I don't actually know what the definitive release date is for Battlefront 2. I haven't got it written down.
It's Destiny September, isn't it?
Yeah,
I think that's usually they do their games in November. Battlefield was November.
Yeah. I think it's November as well. So I definitely think they'll want it before then. They'll want availability of the console before then. They shouldn't have any problems with manufacture. They've used existing tech that AMD already have, so the mass production of the chips isn't dependent on any of AMD's current new tech that they're still working through. So that should be all clear to go. So yeah, I'm gonna go with I think they may try and squeeze an end of September launch window. I think they may be. I think one of the things they've had this in the burner for a while, and I think they may try and actually get it out in front of people sooner rather than later now. Particularly because they'll want to get that autumn games window. Like you say, you've got Destiny 2, you've got lots of things, and they could be big IPs that, alongside obviously Microsoft needing to add some more, that might influence people looking for the best experience for Destiny 2 and Battlefield 2 and Battlefront 2. I keep getting those two confused. Will probably want to have this console in their hands. So
yeah, I mean, people are going to be hyped off the back of this. It honestly, if they came out and went, it's on sale next week, I think that would be incredible. But I don't think that's viable. Timing's an interesting one on this. I think I can see your logic. I think that logic of getting it sooner rather than later is a really good one. But it's just going to be a case of production logistics, isn't it? Really for them, and timing it around the game releases. Price, I don't think it's going to be over $399 US. So I put it around £350 to £400.
I think they'll solidly go for $350. I think they'll aggressively try to price match the PS4 Pro basically, and they'll possibly, I don't know if they'll be breaking even or making a loss on the hardware, but yeah, I think they're going to be very aggressive with this, much like the first Xbox was very expensive to manufacture. They sold it at a loss. Same with the 360 at the start of its cycle. I think they'll repeat that.
If this is 499, they'll have lost before they started.
Yeah.
Like they know this. Phil Spencer knows this. He's looked at the disaster that Don Matrick led the Xbox One launch into, and he will not repeat that. I pray he will not repeat that, because if he does, it literally will be a stillbirth. It will be dead on arrival if they do that. I really hope it's competitive, like we're talking about here. Any crazy predictions, like maybe like the Xbox One Elite controller in the box, maybe is it going to have Steam integration, something like that? I feel both of those could be quite cool.
So the big one going around at the moment is obviously the guys over at GameSpot spotted that Microsoft have filed for a trademark registration for direct reality. Now, it's not that everyone's kind of like, oh my god, is this like the name of something and things. So the most likely thing is that they have their DirectX API, which is the 3D graphics API that's in use on the PC and the Xbox now, and that's broken down into several sub things. You have Direct Draw and Direct 3D for kind of those components, as they used to be Direct Sound and stuff. I don't know what all their exact names are anymore. It's been a long time since I've written any code against them, but yeah, Direct Reality is likely an extension to that API, focusing on, I assume, VR and the augmented reality stuff. It's going to be kind of equivalent to sort of Steam VR-y stuff, like that, APIs to allow people to easily do VR, to handle sort of rendering to two different sides, camera positions, that kind of stuff. So my crazy prediction is that I think they'll be potentially going for some demonstrations with maybe some of the existing VR kit, maybe the HTC Vive, the Oculus Rift. They might be trying to push some compatibility with that kind of stuff. I don't think they'll go with Steam integration on the Xbox One. It would be an incredible move if they did, but the only reason I think that they won't is because of the Windows Store and the sort of harmony now they've got between the App Store you get on Windows 10 and the Xbox as well. So they've got the
Play Anywhere.
Yeah, Play Anywhere thing. So you buy a game, you can play it on your PC, literally jump to your Xbox, the cloud saves all sync up, and you can carry on. I've tested it a few times. It's very impressive. So I think that's what they're going to be wanting to, that's their kind of ecosystem vision for Windows. So I don't see them making room for Steam in that. I don't think they're that desperate yet. So yeah, I think there might be some, everyone talks about HoloLens and the augmented reality. They'll likely do some presentation just to show you that that's still bubbling along. But I think they'll be a bit more keen to make use of some of the existing hardware out there and just show games.
If the Scorpio supported any VR headset, I think it's more likely to be Oculus than the other one. Yeah, but if they support Oculus out of the box, the interesting thing would be what ecosystem gets the Oculus enabled PC games onto the Xbox One. Now, Oculus has its own storefront, doesn't it? So I suppose,
yes, possibly.
I suppose that could be a deal that gets that onto the Xbox One. I think that would be amazing to do that. Like, we're not going to force you to buy our own headset. We're not going to bother doing our own headset. Why would we need to? We're Windows. That's not how we work. So let's just support the ones out there already. I think that would be a hell of a coup if they could do that. And then it's the case of like, yeah, they're expensive. If you want to go in on this, you can, but nobody's going to make you. It's like, it's just an additional little extra thing that you could encourage, people could do. And then, the amount of more VR headsets. But the question to me is, because Microsoft have been very much talking about how VR isn't there yet, VR isn't ready yet. And I think this year has really borne that out. I think there was an initial surge of interest, but now already people have stopped talking about VR. There aren't many big VR releases coming out. There aren't many big VR games that people are excited about. The hardware has fallen off sales-wise big time. So I don't know if they will bother with that, because if you build a system so it's going to be enabled at some point in the future, it can work great. But I don't know if that's now. I'm not sure.
I agree with you on that, and that's why I think rather than going down the route Sony did with their own headset and that kind of branded stuff, I think that's why they'll just try and leverage some of the existing tech they've already got out there, and they'll show that the Scorpio can do it using an Oculus or a HTC Vive, I think. And that's simply like that. They'll keep it, and they've it's pretty low risk for them. They can just show some of the existing PC games potentially working, and that's all they really need to do. It ticks that box to say, yeah, Scorpio can do it. But like they've minimum risk to them. They haven't really invested anything. They haven't got new hardware, accessories, or anything like that.
So I'm thinking of the pageantry of the show, right? So you've done the opening, you've done the Scorpio hardware, you fade to black, you fade up, you put a spot down, John Carmack in Oculus. And then it spot up on a spot, and it shows connected to the Scorpio. It would be huge, wouldn't it? Like the pop you'd get off of that, and then a guy comes out and says, "If you want, you can do it if you want," it's like no skin off anyone's back. You can just that would be huge. That would be huge. Yeah, that'd be massive. Right, we're obviously. I'm going to put this prediction out. We're going to have a new IP, brand new IP, not a sequel. Not a reinvention, not a reboot, not something brought back from 20 years ago. Announced and released by the end of the year, exclusive on Xbox One.
Yep, I completely agree. The curiosity is going to be what's it going to be, and it needs to be something that looks. I imagine it's going to look eye-watering. And yeah, it's just a case of what's it going to be? Are they going to go science fiction? Are they going to go fancy? Are they going to go sort of modern era? Is it going to be a shooter? Is it going to be, I don't know, an action adventure game? It's just, it's it's impossible to guess. And the fact that no, there hasn't been any real leaks or anything so far, has kept it. If they have got, if they haven't got anything, then that would explain why there've been no leaks and things. Otherwise, they've managed to keep their cards really close to the chest, and what we get to see, hopefully, will be, something spectacular. It needs to be from their perspective, and so far they've done everything kind of right with the pitching of the Scorpio and what they're trying to do to try and repair the brand damage and things. They've been very games focused and stuff. So. Continuing on from that really positive trend, it's got the potential to be something really good, I think.
So let's just run down the obvious games that we're going to see at the show as well, that I'm excited to see, but we already know about. We've got Crackdown 3, Sea of Thieves, Forza 7. Those are all going to be there, aren't they? And they're all going to look amazing on the Scorpio, I suspect. I really wish I could talk about Sea of Thieves, but I can't. Cuphead. And the ID stuff, I think we'll get. Do you know what? Cuphead might be the show, the game that's out now. I think that could be that's been coming a long time. Things have been quiet on it a while. There's a good buzz around it. That could be the one that's like Cuphead. Here it is, and it's out right now on the Xbox Store. What do you think? I just thought of that.
Yeah, possibly. I'm just having a quick look to see if there's any hints around it. Yeah, it's due for release this year. It's been in development since 2014, so yeah, that's kind of like
I played it in EGX like 3 years ago, and it looked done then. So I don't know what they've done with it, but
yeah,
okay.
It fits that time. It fits that timeline. It could be an immediate launch.
Tacoma will be there. Again, I know that's coming up quite soon. State of Decay 2, again, that's this year, and they'll be showing that off because that's a cool exclusive. It's sort of indie, but a really cool. I'm really looking forward to playing that in co-op, actually. That should be amazing. I think maybe we get Bellow. Bellow could also be the out now game because they basically went radio silent because they said, we're not going to talk about it again until we're basically at release. So that could also be a case of this is finally done. Here it is, which would be another big coup. I'm more interested in Bellow than Cuphead. I found Cuphead kind of dull, to be honest. It looks great, but I didn't like how it played. That could be the other game that's out now. I think there is going to be something. There's been some leaked stuff implying a free game that's going to be given away over the show, but it looks like it's going to be a choice situation. Like you can choose a game of up to a certain value for free during E3. So that's popped up some pictures on UIs and stuff on the dashboard and stuff. So that's potentially coming. I think we're going to get a new dashboard announcement. There's a big new design push, isn't there, coming for the dashboard to get it in line with the Scorpio's look. So I think they're going to show that off, and it'll probably be available for alpha preview members like myself, probably pretty much immediately, I imagine, that week. It's not exactly that exciting to talk about UI redesigns, but hey, why not? It'll almost certainly happen. I think we're going to have Crystal Dynamics and Square out with that Marvel game as well, the Avengers game that got announced. And I think that's going to be, I don't remember if they already said or not, but I think that'll be at least a timed exclusive on Xbox One. And that's what they're going to show. They're not going to show a Tomb Raider. They're going to show that. What do you think of that?
Yeah, sounds plausible. There's a lot of, I think Microsoft are going to try and, I think they'll get a lot of timed exclusives. I don't think they'll be open the wallet far enough to get many dedicated exclusives from third parties. But I imagine that there'll be a lot of timed exclusives. We already know, for example, like you mentioned, Bellow is a timed exclusive. It's launching on Windows 10 and Xbox, so that's a fine candidate to fit into that. And yeah, like you say, a new Marvel game based around the Avengers. Yeah, it's all very possible. It's crazy. I imagine what Microsoft will probably do is they will show a lot of games. If I remember back to was it a couple of years back, the amount of games Sony showed in one of their presentations was just astounding. It's just a huge swathe of them. And I think Microsoft will be very much trying to emulate that kind of feeling. You've got the backwards compatibility thing as well.
Yes, so, I think there's going to be a big dump. I think there's going to be a huge amount of back compat titles show up next week. I also think it's quite possible we're going to get OG Xbox games, original Xbox games. They're not going to be discompatible. It's going to be a case of they're all going to go up on the store and you can buy them again. But I know that that's the same they want to do is get original Xbox games onto that platform as well.
I think I agree with you on that. There'll be some licensing problems they'll obviously have to resolve, but yeah, the original Xbox was x86 architecture, which means that the game ports are incredibly simple and straightforward in theory. And yeah, I think that's highly likely. We could see the original Halo per se, and some of the other Microsoft classics, Project Gotham, one of my favorite original Xbox games, Mashed. Yeah. Did you ever play a game on the original Xbox called Mashed? It was like a Micro Machine style game. It was absolutely insane. Yeah. What
was I going to say? Oh, yeah, Jet Set Radio. That was an amazing good game on the Xbox. But what little twist on this? They will be exclusive to Game Pass subscriptions.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, I think they'll definitely try and do something to. They'll definitely talk about Game Pass. They'll definitely, I think, try and enrich it with some extra stuff, just to make it even better than the kind of current offering it is. I think the other reason they'll try and push it is because thinking of the new console and trying to win back some of that audience from the PlayStation side, that it's actually a really, if you haven't played an Xbox or we weren't that much involved in the 360 generation, it's a fantastic cheap way to get access to a shed load of very good games for a very fair price. So I think that's one pitch. I think that's kind of an angle they'll try and take with Game Pass. They'll use it to try and sweeten people moving over as a cheap way to get lots of games to get you going quickly.
Free year of Game Pass with Scorpio purchases for the first 2 months after launch, something like that.
Yeah, I imagine they'll shovel a card in there, much like you tend to get 14 days or a month's worth of free gold.
I think it'll be better than that.
Similar,
I think it'll be more. It'll be like 6 months or something like that, I would have thought. Yep. But yeah, I think this is what I'm talking about. I think there's so many interesting directions Xbox can go with it. Basically, this is the make or break moment, right? Like, this is the moment where Phil's vision. I call him Phil because we're really tight. Phil's vision is going to come to fruition. Since he came on about 3 years ago, he's been all about the games, and this Scorpio is going to be his big hardware release, right? He's putting all his eggs into this basket. This is what will win in their minds. I would imagine if they're not thinking this is what's going to win the console war, then they wouldn't do it. right? So it's a case of this has to be what wins them back that market share. And therefore, it's the price has to be competitive. What's in the box has to be competitive. The games offering, the service offering, it all has to be the best it's ever been to get people away from PlayStation. So this is going to be a very exciting show. They've already said it's going to run long. So it's going to go longer than I think the usual 90 minutes. So, you know, I'm hearing buzz about this. Things are starting to really build up. Do you think it's impossible that we get some kind of spin-off Halo game? Final prediction.
I hope so. One thing that always, you know, I really love the extended universe for Halo, the kind of stuff that they could do around it. Now, you know, you can read a fair few books and things, and there's some of the animated Halo Legends thing. I found some of the episodes of that pretty cool. There's great potential there. ODST was really the only game that they ever took to explore the extended universe, and that was that was fantastic. Oh, sorry, Reach. Yeah, forgot about Reach. Takes you back.
Reach is amazing. Yeah. Reach was awesome.
So yeah, something more around that. Because yeah, I think they definitely need to step away from the Master Chief. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I didn't find Halo 5 particularly fantastic, but yeah, sidestepping back into that kind of the era between Halo 1 and 3 and some of the sort of other battles that are going on around there. There's plenty of scope for them to come up with some cool stuff. Who knows? Maybe even some crazy Halo equivalent of Destiny.
That's a big undertaking, though, isn't it? Yeah,
yes, a massive thing. But maybe they'll go for some sort of sticky online variant of it. I don't know.
I mean, the safer bet would be I'll hear some story DLC for Halo Wars 2. Boring. That game's fine. That game is fine. It's just really underwhelming. Like it works. It's fun, but it's nothing special. I'd be very, like you just said, you're talking my language, man. I'm a big fan of the Halo universe as well. I've read the books like you. I'd love to see something to do with the grunt or a different perspective in that core era where they're fighting the impossible war, where they're falling back and back and back. You know, give us a new hero to root for, give us a new perspective to fall in love with. I think that could be amazing. The rumor I saw but I think it's been debunked as photoshopped, at least by Frank O'Connor said it was bullshit, but he says that about any leaks, even when they're right. Was this thing called Halo Gravemind, which was something, it was like a promotional flyer with the text and the graphics. It seemed to imply a dude fighting Flood, basically. So what does that mean? We don't really know, but that's what's out there at the moment. But whether or not that's legit, like I said, O'Connor says it's not, but we don't know. Okay, Microsoft is going to be fascinating. I can't wait for Sunday night. It's going to be so good.
It's going to be the pick of the bunch, and the thing is, expectations are going to be sky high. So let's just see if they can match that or not.
Let's try and be chill. It's difficult. It's very difficult, E3. The hype is real. Right. Bethesda, you wankers who put your conference back 2 hours to 5 in the morning on Monday. 5 in the morning. I mean, so I'm going to do Microsoft. That's going to run long. Get all the coverage up. So it's going to be about midnight, 1 a.m. When I go to bed, do I go to bed? Like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm going to be up again at 4 to do fucking prep and then cover Bethesda at 5 in the morning. You assholes. That's so selfish. You know what I mean, Joel? You don't seem to mind. I'm very upset.
Well, it's one that I've got work Monday morning, so I likely won't. I might get up early to see it, but it depends on firstly after the Microsoft console, the Microsoft conference, how long it takes me to get to sleep, because I might be very excited or very upset.
That's fair. I'm never going to be. It doesn't matter what they say. I'm going to get it. This is kind of yeah, that's the way I am. But hey, so Bethesda, right? We've got some pretty safe bets at Bethesda to start with. So we've got the sequel to Wolfenstein, which was teased in a trailer last year, I think, wasn't it, for something else at the Bethesda conference. So I think that game, less so the little digital extra one they did, but the original game, the Wolfenstein game that came out on Xbox One, was it Enemy Within? No, what was it called? Enemy something. Enemy Unknown? No, it's Xbox. It had a subtitle. Anyway, the one that was like
The Order, Old Blood.
Old Blood was the digital thing. New Order, Wolfenstein New Order. Yes, thank you. That was it. So other than that slightly ropey start to the game, it has that amazing 60s alternative setting, still fighting the Nazis, crazy, just a crazy, punky, great fun, surprisingly good stealth mechanics. Such a good first-person shooter. What a surprise that game was. That was like, hey, we're Bethesda, we're a publisher now. Fucking pay attention on Xbox One and PS4. Really, really good. You played that yet, Joel?
I do own it, and I played the first level of it.
The first level is
I need to
garbage.
go back and maybe play some more.
The first level is shit as all hell because it feels like a really bad generic shooter, and then it becomes amazing. Like, amazing. You should totally play more of that. Especially if they announce a sequel. That'll have to be a thing you do. You'll have to finish that game. But yeah, that would be cool. I'm quite excited for that. The other strong rumor is that we're going to get Evil Within 2. Now, I own Evil Within, much like Joel owns Wolfenstein New Order, and I have not played that. I've owned it for a while. Have you played Evil Within?
No.
Cool.
Definitely not.
Classic Resident Evil type game. Bit of psychological horror, lots of gore and stuff. I feel like a sequel to that has been on the cards for a while, right? And then the other obvious one, we're going to get probably a really boring 20-minute segment about Elder Scrolls Online, because they trot it out at every conference they've done since it came out, and they'll be like, look, Morrowind's out. I'm actually playing it right now, Joel, for review, the Morrowind expansion. I actually played ESO originally when it came out on Xbox and actually gave a really bad review. One of the few reviews where the developer came back and went, shut the fuck up. Actually weren't happy with my review because I had so many bugs, it basically made it unplayable. I'm happy to report the bugs have gone away now. That has been fixed in the 3 years since it came out or whatever it is. And Morrowind's nice. I like to go back. I like going back there, put it that way. But I'll talk more about that in a review properly this week, probably.
So whilst you're talking about Elder Scrolls, obviously I'm reasonably certain that they will now announce the next version of the PC version, or the sequel to Skyrim now.
I don't think they will.
Well, if you look at it, Oblivion came out back in 2006, and then Skyrim was 2011. I think that gets that 6-year period. I think they will. I think they'll announce it.
So I'm going to stick my heels in here. But big disagreement on that prediction. I don't think they will because of ESO, because their answer would be, we don't need to do that. We've got ESO, and I think Todd Howard and his team have been making Elder Scrolls and Fallout games for a long time now. They want to do something different, and I think they're going to announce the different thing, which is this rumored Starfield project. And what that is take Elder Scrolls Fallout type game, set it in space, right? So like a proper science fiction Bethesda RPG. That's the rumor. What do you think? You might disagree because you think we're going to get Skyrim.
Well, it could be certainly interesting, and it would fit with the time frames that they tend to have with these kind of the sort of toing and froing now back between the fantasy series of Elder Scrolls and the sci-fi kind of series of Fallout. This sounds like it's going to be. I haven't actually seen anything about Starfield, so I'm just kind of reading about it.
I basically just told you.
Yeah,
I basically just told you everything that's known. Not really anything out there, but
so,
that's the rumor. That's the rumor.
Yeah, interesting. So yeah, that would make me potentially revise my prediction. I will revise my prediction to they will announce the next variant of, they will announce a project that is of the scale of Skyrim or Fallout 4, that massive single player experience. My thoughts initially would be that yes, this would be a the next Elder Scrolls game, but perhaps maybe they'll try something new. It'd be very refreshing and original.
The thing that works for and against that prediction though is that recently Bethesda's thing has been announced, released within like 3 months. I think the only reason they do it differently with Starfield is because it's a new IP. They want to start getting the mind share. So I think they would announce, and maybe they would announce the project earlier on in development. I don't think it'd be this year because it seems too soon since Fallout for them to have a massive new project. However, they're a very large developer now. That developing arm of Bethesda is massive. if I'm talking pie in the sky dream, I would love a quick turnaround on a Doom 2. I'd be pretty pumped for a Doom 2. But I mean, I don't need it to be big changes. Just give me more. Honestly, just give me more Doom. However, I think that's pretty unlikely. That's another couple of years probably, especially as we've got Quake. Quake will be shown as well. Quake, the Quake Champions thing, that's the online Quake game for PC. That'll be at the conference. But I honestly, I'm not really that bothered about that. Quake was never my thing. It was always Doom. So I don't know. Anything else you can think of for Bethesda? I think that really covers it, really, to be honest.
No. Obviously, I think they may. Prey 2 has been reasonably. Yeah, Prey has been reasonably successful for them. So
yeah, that's a surprisingly good game, Prey. I really enjoyed Prey.
Yeah, I've not played more than the demo, but I can certainly get in on the appeal. It's very Bioshocky in feel, I would say, with less of a focus on direct combat. And I thought the mimicking kind of enemies was quite an interesting and good concept. So yeah, I think they may sing some praises a bit about that, maybe complement that with some DLC and stuff like that. So that's about the only other thing I can think they'll talk about.
Yeah, I think that's Prey DLC. Yeah, I do that. Yeah, that is possible. Yeah, it's possible. So we now move on to later on in Monday because Bethesda 5 AM wankers. Ubisoft Monday night at 9 PM. Let's get the obvious stuff out of the way. Yeah. First of all, it'll be very French because they can't help but do things very French. I'm also really happy because did you watch it Ubisoft last year, Joel?
No. I
didn't watch Ubisoft last year.
No, not from memory. No,
I watched it.
I didn't.
I watched it, and it was really sad because it was at the end. Yves Guillemot, dude in charge, basically was like, "This is the last time I'm going to get on stage." This was when Vivendi looked like it was very likely they were going to take over and force him out, basically his family out, and run the show. Well, they fought that off. That hasn't happened. So this could be a quite optimistic, positive show from Ubisoft. So bring back the Frenchness to the max. I am sad to say, though, they've said Aisha Tyler's not going to be there, which I've grown to love her inappropriate, weird, over-the-top female geekiness, which feels staged but somehow entertaining. But she's not going to be there. I'm a bit bummed about that. But what is going to be there is Assassin's Creed Origins. Because that's leaked all over the place, like the leakiest leak ever. Absolutely,
I've seen it. Oh God, like there was a massive leak of the pre-order card for was it GameStop in the States? So yeah.
The one I liked was the picture of the T-shirt from what looked like a Hot Topic, which just gave away the whole main character and his name, and I was just like, amazing. Like, guys, what are you doing? Like, Jesus. So AC Origins looks like it's Egypt. Excited?
Well, like, I loved Assassin's Creed and I loved Assassin's Creed 2, and then they just came out every year, and it's like they are good games, but they're just not. I can't play that much of the same thing, if you see what I'm saying. So I played a bit of 3, and that's where the line's drawn. I've been around friends' houses. I've seen lots of Black Flag, the ship combat and that kind of stuff. It all looks fun. So,
it's good fun, yeah.
But I've been away long enough now from the series that when I saw that Assassin's Creed 3 was coming back up on backwards compatibility, I think it was released this week. I was mighty tempted to say, I never finished that one. I might go back and play that. And then obviously we've got Origins coming, which maybe do I hold off and instead just jump back into the series at this point? So I've got an appetite to play an Assassin's Creed game again. They are, very, very fluid, very fun. The whole part, I love that parkour-y kind of aspect, the sort of stealth aspects to it. Although, to be honest, it did get a bit easy to just jump in there and just kill people as well.
It's not really a stealth game.
No.
There's not really any stealth in Assassin's Creed, to be honest. It's for a game with the name Assassin. No, there really isn't stealth in them.
Yeah, you just run up. You literally just run up to the guy and stab him now, and that's it.
Give you an idea of where I am with Assassin's Creed. I've played and completed every single Assassin's Creed game ever released.
Yeah.
Right. I really like Assassin's Creed. I really liked Syndicate. Syndicate, I thought a couple of years ago was brilliant. Like, really, really good fun. London setting was great. The fact that they had the male and female choosable protagonists. They had this great sibling connection because they were brother and sister. That was really well written. It had fun bad guys. It really felt good. Even had a fun sort of alternative timeline bit. I won't spoil as you haven't played it. But there was some really, really, really good stuff in that. I'm less excited about the Egyptian setting just because ancient Egypt has never done anything for me. That mythos, that pantheon of gods, all of that stuff. I'm more of a Greek gods guy. That's just how I roll. Or Norse gods as well. I like them. Egyptian stuff, other than the cat thing, because I like cats, not mad into it. But, you know, I'm going to give it a go. I'm almost certainly going to review it because that's the nature of the gig. This is what's crazy to me. Tell me if I'm wrong, but Far Cry didn't come out last year either, did it? They took a year off on that as well.
No, I don't believe so.
So what they do is they take a year off on both their open world games and then decide to release within, I know Far Cry 5's next year, but early next year. But then within a few months of each other, let's bring out our open world games all again.
Wow.
It's just like
Far Cry 4 was 2014. Was there one in between? What was
Primal.
it called?
Primal,
that's it. It just had a different name.
Yeah, but I'm pretty sure that was 2015 though, not 2016. So
no, 2016. Initial
early 2016.
Yeah, 23rd of Feb this year. Yeah.
Early next last year. Okay.
Oh well, they're only going to announce. They've only announced it. This is the trip to Montana now, isn't it? We're in the States.
Well, let's talk about Far Cry 5. I'm pretty hyped for that. That looks cool as fuck. I am down with that concept. Like, what do you think about it? I think it's really cool.
I haven't played a Far Cry game since the very first one on the PC.
Great game.
Yeah. That was kind of right up there with the big launch of the DirectX 9 feature set and stuff. So it was very, very impressive looking back then.
Back when it was a Crytek title, yeah.
Yeah, and obviously I've played Crysis and a few of the other Crytek titles since. But it's maybe it's about they're all much more open worldy now and things, and committing to open world games for me with I don't quite have the time I'd love to have to play all these games, so I have to be very picky and choosy.
Well, I can tell you this, Joe. If I wasn't editor-in-chief of Bxb Games, I'd be the open world editor because I play every open world game every year, almost without fail. I rarely miss an open world game, and I tell you what, when you get to October or November and you're on your third one of the last month, it gets a little tiring, and you do sort of want to die a little bit. Because there is a very distinct formula to the Ubisoft open world, and I love it. But I was glad when AC took a year off. I was glad it's been the best part of 2 years since Far Cry as well. It will be 2 years when Far Cry 5 comes out, which is a relief. But I'm really digging this setting, man. Montana, it's gutsy, setting it in America, going with the extreme right religious sort of cult thing. That sounds mental. You play as like a new deputy sheriff, and you're thrown into this situation, and you're gonna have to survive, and you've got this resistance and stuff. That's some compelling ass setting.
Settings definitely sounds attractive. Like, let's hope they can pull the rest of the bits around it to really make the most of the kind of potential that has, the setting and the sort of characters and things. So.
The other open world game that we're rumored to be getting, because 2 isn't enough, is The Crew 2. Is supposedly going to be, the rumor is that's going to be at E3 this year as well. That game was bad. It was a bad open world, and it was a bad driving game. They didn't do anything well from what I could tell. I didn't review it, thank Christ, but I remember playing it with the person who was reviewing it for Xbox at the time. And it just felt very clunky. But it's interesting because this is going to be coming out around the same time as a new Need for Speed. So back to what we were talking about at the start of the show, Need for Speed is going to have to do a real job of differentiating itself from this kind of un-arcade racer, hopefully with the way we were talking about the narrative. But yeah, I don't know anybody who was like, oh, The Crew, I need another one of those. Really weird. Do you have anything to add for The Crew?
No, I don't of The Crew, but I've never played it. Like, my general preference of racing games is to the very good simulaty ones, like the Project Gotham series, the Forza series, the F1 games and stuff. So
We've got a new F1 game coming, haven't we, in August?
Yeah.
I'm excited. It's Canadian Grand Prix this weekend as well. Somehow I'm going to fit that in around E3. Somehow I haven't decided how that's going to happen, but that will happen. But anyway, we shouldn't digress too much.
Yeah. All right. So sticking with
yes,
Ubisoft, I think the one I'm really looking forward to is South Park Fractured But Whole. That's going to be the glorious sequel to the Stick of Truth.
Are they going to delay it again, Joel?
No, I think this time I can't imagine why they might need to delay it. Maybe just there's just too much satire in the world happening and stuff that they just have to keep extending it. And if they keep going with that, they're gonna have to drop it at some point. Just can't draw the line and cut it.
All I can think of is it must be really hard to work with Matt and Trey.
Yeah.
Like that must be a really difficult. I mean, you're a developer, right? You probably love these guys because who doesn't love South Park or at least respect it? And then I'm gonna get to work with Matt and Trey. It's gonna be amazing. And it's like, oh my god, they're a nightmare. They just constantly rewrite everything and move the goalpost. It must be really, really difficult for them. But I want that game in my life. Yeah, Stick of Truth was brilliant. So this is basically the South Park take on the superhero franchise, and with a new, more active battle system, which should make it a little bit more engaging because that combat did get a bit repetitive in the Stick of Truth. So yeah, I'm excited for that. Are you excited? Are you as excited for that as you are for the Rabbids Mario crossover?
No.
Oh, so you're more excited for the Rabbids Mario crossover?
No. Okay. It's not even on my radar. The Rabbids Mario game.
They got Mario. Mario has a gun. Luigi seems to also be strapped.
Now, I would instantly dismiss the thought of that. I think as being real. Let's wait and see. I don't think they'll ever.
You think that's just some mocked up bullshit?
Yeah. Mario with guns, never. Nintendo never would ever go for that. I don't think so.
I hope you're right. I really hope you're right. Yeah, it does seem odd. But we'll talk about Mario in a minute and when we get to Nintendo anyway. So the one. Right, all of this Ubisoft stuff we've known about, it seems inevitable. Sequel. I don't know if you've got any predictions or anything more off the wall than this, but this is my prediction, right? We finally get real Beyond Good and Evil 2. Like, for real. Like, here's some gameplay. Here's a release window. It's coming out. What do you think?
Maybe.
Could you hedge any more there, Joel?
I don't know. I'd almost forgotten about it. To be honest,
fair enough.
It feels like it's been a long time.
It has been a long time. Yes,
it's almost
a GameCube game.
I think they're looking at it, and I think they took a look at Duke Nukem Forever and thought, yeah, we can do that. We can beat that. That's not a record we're going to let stick with Gearbox now. So. Yeah, maybe. I think it depends on like how much other good. They've got a lot of other stuff potentially. They may not want to cannibalize it.
Yeah, Ubisoft is strange. I feel like we might get a new IP. We might get. The potential would be something Division, I suppose. At this point, some kind of Division sequel could get announced.
I think they may talk. Now, I know we're into the current second season of Rainbow Six Siege, which is a fantastic game. I've played a lot of it. I think it's brilliant. It's very fun. I can't help but I definitely think they'll talk a bit more about that, potentially the esports kind of side of stuff. Might do some stuff around that. But maybe they'll start setting themselves up for Siege 2. Maybe a very early teaser of something for the next year or a bit beyond.
Do you know what? All right, that's inspired a crazy prediction from me. Do you know what I think is more likely than Siege 2? And do you know what I think might be an Xbox exclusive? The return of Mr. Fisher in a new Splinter Cell.
Oh, possible.
It's been a while. Hitman did really well, though obviously it would have had to be in development longer than that. But stealth action, a game that was synonymous with Xbox in its early days. absolutely made Xbox. Chaos Theory, I believe it was, wasn't it? I'd say that was probably the primary console was always Xbox for that franchise. I could see some new Splinter Cell.
Yeah, there's a possibility for sure. Particularly when you think about them coming out with some new IP.
Well,
the only other thing,
new, but definitely not new, but we just had
refreshed IP.
We had Rainbow Six, we had Ghost Recon last year, didn't we? Or the start of this year. Time for some Splinter Cell. I mean, let's tick off the Clancy properties. I mean, nobody wants Hawks, so it would obviously be Splinter Cell next, surely. So.
The only other thing they might obviously talk about is their new logo and how it does look like a bird's eye view of a lovely, beautifully coiled dog poo.
I haven't really looked at it that closely, but all right.
Have you not? So it was one of the first things that was up on Reddit, and then some guy, after seeing it, had to then create a 3D model, which he then 3D printed and then showed everybody of the whole, like, here's the turd on the side, and you flip it over like that, and it just looks like so yeah. The poor people can't even rebrand these days without getting a slagging off canon.
Well, no, Ubisoft. I love Ubisoft. They're such characters. They are so. We're gonna get Just Dance. I mean, we're gonna get some crazy fucking dance in the middle of the show. We'll probably get something weird that we can't expect, like laser tag from a couple of years back. There'll be something in there. There'll be Eve being painfully charming as a French guy does. As only Eve can be. I love him. He's always the highlight for me of the conferences. There'll be some surprises in there. But yeah, Splinter Cell's my prediction, my out there one, I think, for this year for Ubisoft.
If I was to go out there with an extremely far out prediction for something that Ubisoft may pull out, I wonder if they might consider pulling out something similar to EA Access, their own kind of equivalent of a subscription service of things. They've got the content now. They've got a reasonable back catalogue, backwards compatibility as well. So on the Xbox, that is. So maybe they've got the Uplay system as well, which
you could put a subsystem into Uplay. You wouldn't even have to try hard, would you?
Yeah, something like that. Said AMA, certainly, I bet it's something they thought about. It's just a case of not if they do it, but when. Could this be the year?
If they do something like that, though, it's like you lose those titles from the Game Pass thing. So you have to wonder if Xbox would want that to happen at this point. They might just offer them more money to keep them on Game Pass.
Yeah, maybe. So
because I think they've got like Watch Dogs is in Game Pass. I want to say. Some of their titles are already in there.
That was coming up in Games of Gold, isn't it? Watch Dogs, I think. If it's not been already, yeah.
You're right.
First one.
That's coming up later this month. Yeah. Okay, so we're down to the last two now. Well, almost the last one because it's hard to even count Nintendo as one of these. But okay, Sony Tuesday 2 a.m. which is the slot they're always in. This was a hard one for me because as I was compiling this list, I was like, well, that was at last year's show. 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 Because they did this thing last year where they announced so many properties and games that was so far out that it was like, wow, Microsoft is all about the games this year. And Sony's all about the games in 3 years' time. So it's quite weird because we've got God of War. That's pretty certainly going to be at the show. I'm guessing we're going to get a release date. Final Fantasy VII. They'll trot some trailer out to remind you that they're still doing that, almost certainly. Shenmue. Might we see that again?
But they'll definitely show it. But
delayed, Joel. I mean, it was always going to be 10 years from announcement, wasn't it? I mean, that thing's never coming out. That's never coming out.
He's already said it's the scope of my vision is forever growing. So yeah, I think you're right.
He's going to be driving forklifts on the fucking moon, bitches. It's like scope. Why does anybody want that game? Those games are so bad. Why does anybody like Shenmue? They are genuinely the worst games.
I've never really played them, but when I was at university, you had a German guy who bought his Dreamcast, and he used to play it all the time. And funnily enough, every time you went to see him, he was moving packing crates around in a forklift truck for some weird reason. I think it was his job in the game that he was seriously do.
Yeah, they're really bad games. Like they really are. Death Stranding. This is a weird one because there's been talk from Kojima that it won't be there. There's a rumor that. But is this like Kojima being Kojima and like, ooh, double bluff, and then it is there and here's some proper gameplay? and stuff like that. I mean, that trailer from last year was. It pains me to say it because I'm an OG Xbox guy from way back, but it pains me to say it, the Death Stranding stuff was mind blowing. I was just watching that, going, "This is what an auteur makes." This is creativity unbound. This is a man given a blank check to make his vision, and I love that Sony have done that with Kojima, and they've cut him loose. And it'll probably be a stealth action game, but still, it looked amazing. And I didn't know what I was looking at. I was scratching my head, but I was like, this is sumptuous. The visuals, the music, the casting. I was just like, oh, yes. Hype for something that will probably be quite banal, but still hype. It
certainly was kind of very, visual, very thought-provoking. But yeah, like you say, where it's more mystery and the excitement around that. What is this all? The sort of exploring those ideas and things. So yeah, I don't know if it will be there or not. If sure, Sony would love to show more, but maybe they've got a packed enough schedule that this is one that they're just going to be willing to let lie. Perhaps show later on.
I think we get another CGI trailer. We get another CGI trailer. Come on, it's not going to be gameplay, but there'll be something. Remind people that this is why you own a PlayStation, guys, because you want to play this. Everybody wants to play this. Now, here's one I've got a little bit of insider info on, but I don't want to get the person in trouble. But Days Gone, I've heard is struggling. Do you remember Days Gone from last year, Joel?
No.
Days Gone was the zombie game with the bikers. Does that help you out at all?
No, Google's going to help me.
Right. World War Z zombies, like rushing, lots of them, very fast. Dude running away from them, try to hold them back. Played by Sam Witwerth, also known as Starkiller from Force Unleashed. Part of a biker gang, surviving on the road. I've heard they're having a lot of problems making that vertical slice work as a game. But that's
okay.
A friend of mine in the development community has told me some things. But that's a few months ago. But that I think we'll probably see some more of that.
Yeah, it won't stop them showing it, maybe. But
of course it won't. Don't be silly. The fact that the game isn't viable, what does that matter? So I think we might actually get. I think if they can get the technical side stuff done, I could see them saying that's an end of year property. That they want to aim for Q4 this year. Potentially, because looking at this list, Final Fantasy VII, that's 2 more years out. I don't feel like God of War's this year. Shenmue isn't this year. Death Stranding's 2 years out. Days Gone could be 2 years out. Last of Us Part 2 is the end of next year at the earliest. Uncharted 4 DLC, yeah, we know that's coming this year. That's soon, isn't it? That's in the next few months. You're an Uncharted 4 guy. You played it, yeah? You like the Uncharted series?
No, I've never played any of the Uncharted games.
Wow. Okay.
I'm an Uncharted. I'm Uncharted. Like,
brilliant. I like that. No, that's cool. Okay. Why?
Mainly just because in the previous generation I didn't actually use my PS3 that much. Mainly because its bloody Blu-ray lens kept breaking, and I had to constantly replace it, which was really frustrating. And hence I just spent a lot more time on the 360, basically. So that's the only reason I skipped over them. But I'm also not a massive fan of those kind of games, I guess. I like a good story and stuff. It's kind of the game I think I could just sit down and watch. But
you can kind of do that. I mean, you can get this. You can get the Uncharted, the Nathan Drake collection, really cheap now. I recommend you do it. I really do. It is a great example of cinematic storytelling, writ large, with a large budget and a developer really coming into its own. I still think Uncharted 2 is one of the greatest games of the last generation. It's truly a pinnacle of an action, third-person action game. It's absolutely amazing. And the characters are so endearing. You will fall in love with everyone. I can't recommend it enough. So I will just say, in that case, as you haven't played them, the Uncharted 4 DLC is leaving me a little bit cold. I feel like I've come to the end of the Uncharted journey. I don't feel like I need any more. However, I'm sure it will be excellent. Like the quality, Neil Druckmann and the guys at Naughty Dog will absolutely knock it out of the park. But I'm not excited for it, but I know I'm going to play it at some point. So that's the Uncharted 4 DLC, which is coming up. So to get back to The Last of Us Part 2, have you played The Last of Us?
I have played parts of The Last of Us. It's on my. I've got it on my shelf. It's. I've played the start of it a couple of times. I've tried to get into it, but I've always just been distracted by a kind of really major launch. But the main character shares the same name as me, so I should play it. Yeah,
that's again, that is an incredible game. Once again, the storytelling, the environmental storytelling, and then the action in that game is actually much better, I think, than the Uncharted stuff. The whole crafting on the fly mechanic, where you're scrambling and to survive at the same time as fighting off these infected type creatures. The only problem I have here is that why is there a sequel to this game? It's pretty much a perfect thing. How Uncharted story unfolds, how it ends, more than anything. How it ends is incredible. The fact that they're doing a sequel, it better be amazing. They better have a story reason for this to work that works really, really fucking well. Otherwise, it's just going to be a cash grab. And I'm sure they looked at how well that first game did, and it's like the inevitable sequel, you know, and all that. But come on, guys, creative integrity. It is allowed in video games. You can say no sometimes, but let's see. Benefit of the doubt. Naughty Dog haven't done much wrong. I thought Uncharted 4 was stretching the need a little bit with Nathan Drake as well, but let's see what they do with Joel and Ellie again in a sequel to The Last of Us. I think we'll definitely get gameplay of that at the show. Definitely getting gameplay for that. That's my prediction on that. I also think we're going to get a massive amount of Activision at Sony because they're tight. So we're going to get Destiny 2 and we're going to get Call of Duty World War 2. Big reveals, I think, for both of those. We're going to get new gameplay from both. We're going to get, I think, probably like new stuff for Destiny 2 that we didn't even see at the big reveal that happened a month ago. I think we're going to get some real big reveal.
Yeah. It's getting close now. I think there'll be a large focus on Destiny 2. There was a large cooperation between Sony and Activision Bungie on the first one. So I expect that to be followed through. Here, I'm looking forward to Destiny 2. I really want to. I loved the first one. I really enjoyed playing it. The gameplay is just it's like the perfect first-person shooter. It's amazing, and it's good stickiness. And still, I love dropping into it every now and again, even still. So yeah, excited for this. Like I've still got my kind of try and rein in my expectations hat on a bit because it's going to, what's it going to be? Is it just going to be more of the same? Are they going to be able to evolve it enough to make it, exciting and feel fresh and new, other than just sort of a graphics update and stuff? They've shed, the original Destiny was designed to work on the 360 and the PlayStation 3 as well. That's all gone now. I know they shed it with some of the updates last time, but how's that is it going to look even better and things? So pretty excited, looking forward to seeing what's happening. But yeah, a bit reserved on Destiny 2 as well. The next one, Call of Duty World War 2. Now, we talked about this in the last podcast, and you asked if anyone was excited about it, and we all kind of flatly dismissed it as no. But since then, I've read quite a in-depth developer development article about it, basically, and that's really talking about their approach and the emotional attachment that some of the development team have gone through. They spent a lot of time in France researching that. They've been following the paths of some of their family members and things who actually fought in the war, and that's actually kind of giving me some positive vibes, I would say, about the personal touch and trying to capture that feel of the Second World War. They spent over 6 or 8, 9 months out in France with a historian expert on World War II and stuff, doing their research and things. So I think this has some. I kind of have great attachment to Second World War myself. Lots of family from both sides of the war. German and British fought in it and stuff. So great attachment to it. I've also spent a lot of time out in France looking at the sites myself. So I'm really actually kind of turned around on this. I'm actually looking excited about this single player campaign and what they're going to pull together. So I'm looking forward to seeing some of this.
We see what we've got to with big games now, big AAA games, is we've got to this point where mechanics are nailed down. We know how to make. Developers seem to know how to make good first-person shooters, good third-person action games. Good examples of the genre. That can be done on a fairly simple basis. We've got to the point where multiplayer gameplay is, you know, it's competitive. There's esports. We know what those things are. We know what those modes are that the competitive players want. So you can repeat, you can, you know, easily enough repeat that game to game. So what that seems to mean, and seems to be making more and more sense for these developers, is that now let's make these narratives work. Let's polish these stories to the point that, you know, what you'd expect from a good book or a good film. Let's bring those emotional beats and those characters and those narratives in a way that are compelling. They are exciting. They are interesting. They are well developed. And that seems to be more and more. In the last year, we saw this a lot, and we're seeing it again this year. Well, this seems to be where the development time really is going. And it's like what you just told me about Call of Duty World War II. That's thrilling. I didn't know about that. That is amazing to hear. Because if they can nail that and surprise us with an engaging, emotional, realistic, heartfelt story of a personal battle in World War II, I'm in. That's could be an amazing experience. And that's what I'm seeing with these big titles, that, you know, those stories and those engagement, you know, we've got their gameplay, we've got the multiplayer experience, we've got the shooter stuff down. Now let's make sure those stories are fantastic. And if that's what they can do, and if that's what we can pull off, you know, we're just ticking off, you know, tentpole after tentpole, you know, of the cornerstones of what makes a game amazing. And no longer will an amazing story be the outlier, the surprise. It could well become the norm. So that's thrilling to me. That's you know, as an older gamer that isn't necessarily into the competitive scene anymore, you can give me a good fun story that fits that setting. You know, brilliant. Do it. Destiny's like Doom's. You know, it doesn't have to be mature. It doesn't have to be like a film, and like, but if it fits the experience, brilliant. Brilliant. Bring it on. Bring it on. That's exciting. That's really exciting. I suspect from Sony we'll get some VR titles, because I feel like nobody's talking about it. So Sony has to, because they made that hardware. Like, they've got to show off some, haven't they?
Yeah, I imagine that their presentation is going to start. The curtains are going to go up, and they're going to spend about 5 to 10 minutes talking about, first of all, sales. They'll be talking about how they're not talking about shipping numbers. They'll be talking about sales, how they're dominating in the markets and stuff.
But will they, though? Because they've tried to get away from all that in the last few years. Like, you don't get that at the conferences anymore.
No, I think they will. I think they'll start with that.
They can't resist the Japanese-ness of them. They can't resist.
Yeah, they'll want to kind of, you know, with Scorpio trying to you know, talk about the limelight, they'll be trying to reinforce that, you know, PlayStation, the brand, is really successful. It's being, you know, it's out there, it's very good. They've got the biggest user base. They've got the, you know, the biggest online presence and things like this. So this is what they'll be talking about. And I think they'll put something about VR in there. And I think you're right. They will show some VR titles, but I think, you know, yeah, the fire has kind of gone out on VR a bit. I think a lot of people, even myself included, have experienced it, and yeah, it's great. You know, if it's expensive, get a good PC setup, and you can sit down and you can play it, and it is a good experience. But the first thing I came out of it going, yeah, that's fantastic. I can't wait till the second generation of hardware where they iron out the kinks, and then I'll be willing to invest. And that second generation of hardware just hasn't come yet. No, you know, you're looking at the Vive, you're looking at the Oculus, you're kind of expecting them to say like, yeah, you know, we've got the next, you know, more powerful tech is now available, so let's get the, you know, higher quality displays and all of this into the VR tech and things, but it's just not happened. So that's where it's gone cold. And the game developers kind of, yeah, it's more about the indie scene, the smaller games, and you know, you've got some of the big experiences out there. You know, I think Robinson was kind of one example of a, you know, kind of an attempt at a AAA style you know, title for VR and things. But yeah, I don't know. I think they won't show much more than a few kind of indie-ish kind of fun-looking games, but it will be pretty thin.
I think in the PSVR's case, it's kind of become Connect on the 360 a little bit, where people have been picking it up for the novelty value, and then they pick up a couple of the cheaper indie kind of games, you know, a shooting gallery here, a social hub type experience there, and it's like, oh yeah, done that, cool, put it down. I know that's what's happened to Richard. You know, it's I don't know where it goes from here. The technology, you're talking about the version 2. Technology will not evolve if it's not, the games aren't selling. If the money isn't being made, then they aren't going to push to develop the hardware, are they? So it's kind of this catch-22 that you won't, you know, you could be stuck. There's so many developers have pivoted so hard into making these VR experiences that are subsequently not selling. That is that fear that we were predicting when we were talking about this on Bxb a year ago, that the fear that, you know, you're just going to see a whole bunch of developers go under because the bubble could burst very, very soon.
The big publishers have dipped their toes a bit. All of them are curious about it. I think everyone wants to be ready to, you know, they don't want to be left, they want to be ready to go with it. But yeah, it's not hit critical mass. Like now, for me personally, the one massive attraction title that I would really be interested in is obviously EA did a demo, a Star Wars VR level for Battlefront on the PSVR, and literally, if someone was to make a Star Wars X-wing kind of TIE fighter-ish, you know, flight sim in the vein of Elite, or you know, like that style of, I would probably, like, I would remortgage my house to kind of get hold of that, you know, whatever equipment required and stuff to do it. That you need to kind of kill her out, but nobody's gonna make the jump.
The one that looks really cool right now is the Star Trek Bridge Crew, but
yes, that does look quite good.
5 headsets or know a bunch of people that have them, and it's just like, well, the other thing for me in VR is that, first of all, I need to get out, you know, I don't want PSVR because I've played PSVR and it's fine, but it's nowhere near as good as the others. And it's kind of like, if I'm going to do this, I might as well do it right. So that's where the Scorpio hype comes from. That could the extra grunt there, maybe it will be able to do it, you know, to a full-fledged degree.
Yes, it can. It's so the GPU in Scorpio is based on the Polaris RX 480 chip, which was AMD's first entry-level VR card. It was the budget. I say budget. It was the £200 capable VR card, and that's what the AMD pitched it as. Now, in the PC, it was more than capable. It could hit the frame rates. It could deliver VR. It wasn't as good as the top end video experience, for example, but it did it. Now, when you transition that to the console at the to metal level, you always get more performance. You know exactly what you're targeting. So it should be easily more capable of doing the VR experience. But like I say, I don't think Microsoft will. They'll be reluctant to jump into it by themselves. They won't want another Kinect on their hand. Hence, I think they'll be dependent on other, you know, integrating with existing hardware like Oculus and stuff. Now, it'll be interesting to see if they offer that and maybe what comes with it. But I still think there'll be a lack of games. That's the problem. I think it will just be here's the Rift working on Xbox Scorpio with some VR games from last year, basically, rather than any new solid IPs.
I think you know, I'm big, like I always mention, I'm a big fan of Giant Bomb and stuff, and they look at the VR experiences on there, and I'm like, wow, another shooting gallery. Oh, cool. Oh, another shooting gallery. Oh, another slightly different shooting gallery. And it's just like, it's just such obvious use of the tech. But then again, what else do you do with it? It's kind of like, yeah, sure, that's another really obvious one.
Basically, whatever it's the motion sickness kind of stuff that the problems with the technology they need to work around and things. So.
I had a good friend of mine. He was working on one that was different, and that was Rigs, and we know how that went for that studio. So you know, that was trying something different, and it didn't really. It was ahead of its time, I think. People hadn't got into the VR space well enough, and it pushed too many people away. It was you know, they physically pushed them away. It's so difficult. I kind of would love VR to be huge and accessible, and we all got little sunglasses we put on, and it just works, and it's amazing. And I don't know, you know, the 3rd and 5th and whatever generation of it, but I don't know if we're going to get there. It feels, at the moment, it feels a lot like 3D TVs to me. That it's just a fad that's going to just disappear. You know, that's VR. The idea of a new visual medium for gaming, that's great. But why don't we perfect, you know, the elements? We were just talking about how narrative experiences are getting better and better and better. Let's perfect those experiences before we start trying to sell £600, £1,000 pieces of hardware to people. You know, it just, I don't know. I don't know if the people are ready for it yet. If it hangs around long enough and develops slowly enough, and then can in 2 or 3 years' time, you know, really get the consumer level, we'll see. I suppose. Yeah. Anyway, I also suspect Sony will make some more vaporware appear. That's a bit mean, I guess. But he'll be a new game, you know, from a franchise you loved from the past that's going to come out in 4 or 5 years' time. I imagine there'll be at least one of those. At least one.
Gran Turismo is another one. I'm sure they'll pitch and talk about a bit. Obviously, they need something to go up against Forza, because the PlayStation haven't got anything that fits that. That's kind of like the one standout thing on Xbox has at the moment, is that quality racing game. So I expect there'll be a big sort of Gran Turismo. What is it, 6? I think
they were doing some kind of sporty spin-off one, weren't they?
Yeah, it might be sport.
Pretty sure it's something weird like that, but I can't remember now. But yeah, I'm gonna. Yeah. I mean, right? I don't own a Switch right now, so let's talk about Nintendo. Their non-conference, their Treehouse, whatever they call it now. I don't know. 5 p.m. Tuesday. So we're gonna get a bunch of games that are about to come out. We're gonna get ARMS. We're gonna get Splatoon 2. Which are just around the corner. I feel like that's inevitable that they'll probably waste a lot of time on those. Do you think they're going to talk about the online service that's not out until next year now?
Yes.
Flesh out the details on that?
I think, well, it is available. It's free until next year. No,
it's not available because the service that they're talking about is this thing which is going to give you the NES classic titles as part of the subscription. So when you say it's available, there will be an online component to ARMS and Splatoon, but it's not going to be this service that's coming.
Now,
that's going to be $20 for a year. So that's the way it is. That you will be able to play Splatoon online, but the service aspect, which is going to give you this Netflix-esque choice of NES games, potentially SNES games, though I doubt we'll get the SNES games for a while. And it's probably only going to be, I would imagine, 4 or 5 titles, knowing Nintendo, which are going to be these NES classics. I know they announced Super Mario Brothers 3 was going to be one of them, and I think Bubble or something like that, or Ice Climber, I think might have been announced as well, as being involved in this package that's going to be starting next year. And they're going to be online enabled. That's nice, I suppose, and it's cheap. But my God, this online thing with Splatoon is ridiculous, isn't it? How it's going to work with the dongle and the connection through your smartphone, and that's how you do voice chat. Like,
yeah, the voice chat through the app on the phone is kind of like the most frustrating.
Why don't I just get Skype going at that point? I mean,
yeah, the most frustrating thing about this whole thing is that this is, Microsoft nailed this back at the launch of the Xbox 360. Sony caught up. They have had literally, they've had from the Wii to the Wii U to the Switch to sort this out, and they haven't.
Oh, hold on. I had voice chat going with Xbox Live in Halo 2 on the original Xbox.
Yeah, so did I, but I explicitly said nailed it. It was
perfected
the launch of the 360. The online service was the vision that they had when they launched that. It was unbelievable. I think it caught everyone off guard, just like how an online service would be on a console, and it was literally perfect from the off. So hats off to them for that. But yeah, Nintendo, I don't know why they're so resistant. It just seems to be that Nintendo are Nintendo, and they just do things Nintendo's way. But the Switch, so I've had one for about a month now, and I was dipping into it and out of it a bit, but I'd just been on holiday, so the Switch was like, aha, this is your moment to shine. I'll take it on holiday. I'll purchase a few of the games from the online library, and I've got Mario Kart and stuff, and my God, is it a masterful little machine on a aeroplane. It's brilliant. Just prop her up, get the 2 controllers out, bit of multiplayer Mario Kart on the plane. And again on holiday, just sitting playing, it's beautiful thing to sit and play. So just having the 2 controllers that just slide off, and you can quickly just skip to a kind of 2-player game, it was perfect. And then back home as well. Just had the nephews over. They instantly just sat there and played. Normally they always want to play on my Wii U when they come over. So this time it's like, oh no, I've put the Wii U away. I've got something different you have to play. Showed them the Switch. They just sat there and playing Mario Kart and stuff. It is it's genius, and I can't wait for more of this kind of social multiplayer. That's why I'm quite excited about ARMS. I'm a bit worried about the price of it, but initial all my readings and stuff to say this is just fun. It's what you expect from Nintendo. This is a gameplay masterpiece. It's just fun, enjoyable, crazy, accessible kind of fun. I'm looking forward to it. There's been a few concerns about the number of characters available in the game, and like I say, the cost, and there's promises that Nintendo will be bringing more characters, which kind of sings down to the DLC path. But yeah, I think this will play a big factor. Not so much in Nintendo's presentation, but just on the show floor. I think they'll have a lot of ARMS booths and people will be playing it and just relishing in the enjoyment this game's going to bring. I think it's going to be fantastic.
Okay, I will take your word for that. It's not my kind of game, that's for sure. But I don't know. Maybe I'm an old fuddy-duddy that doesn't get the whole Nintendo thing anymore. Maybe I don't know. But you
haven't got a rooftop terrace, obviously, that you go up to play on your friend. That's what you're missing.
I have a somewhat overgrown garden. That's all I have, and it's not cool enough for a Switch. It just wouldn't work. I just feel inadequate. You didn't. I take it you didn't pick up Street Fighter 2 then, if you thought ARMS might be a bit pricey.
Absolutely no. That's I figured that we'd probably end up talking about this in bits and bobs, but this is it's absolutely insulting. Like, I don't know what on earth anybody thought about that. It's just a terrible, terrible, terrible thing to do to what should essentially be a reasonably priced classic game. It's been I can't believe it. Anyway, let's move on.
Yes, predictions. We're doing predictions. Yeah. So we're gonna get Super Mario Odyssey gameplay. Yeah.
I think they'll talk a bit about it, but I think they might try and do a similar thing to what they did last year. I think Mario Odyssey will be their big kind of game. I think they'll theme a lot of their booth maybe around that, and it will be a major part. Yeah, actually getting in there, playing it, and talk and letting people see more what it's about. So I think that'll be a big part of it.
One of the rumored prediction-y things I saw when I was looking at Nintendo Online was that maybe we're going to get re-releases of games to pad out the library. And one that I heard about was maybe a Super Smash Brothers game that's more of a re-release than a whole new title. Mm-hmm. Do you think that's possible?
Yeah, I think it's incredibly likely. They've already Mario Kart 8 Deluxe was Mario Kart 8. I can see Super Smash Bros. Brawl, wasn't it? Was the last one?
I have no idea.
Yeah, they wouldn't even need to do much to it. They just need to bring it. They just need to port it and bring it up. So yeah, I think that's
just bring it, baby. Just bring it. Yeah. Yep. For this year.
Yes, I would like to think so. I think Nintendo's the hardware's brilliant. I think it's got great potential. They just now need to get the games on it. So yes, I could see them potentially trying to get something through this year. The launch library that they've got, looking towards the end of this year, there's a lot of releases of existing games. Got things like, I think, Spelunky and Binding of Isaac and Skyrim.
Has Binding of Isaac still not come out?
Pass. I don't think
that was announced as a launch game, I'm pretty sure, but I know it got delayed, but I would have thought it was out already. But
no, I don't think so, because when I was looking in the store, because obviously the one thing I really wanted to do was, so I wanted to drop my money on Rime and take it with me on holiday, so I could have got the most out of that. And although it is coming out on the Switch, it didn't launch. It's not launching till much later this year.
It's a very interesting little game. I actually I don't know if we're gonna have a chance on the next show, but I'd like Richard to talk about it at some point because he reviewed that, and it's I played it as well, and it's that is a Switch game.
Yeah,
basically, it looks like a Nintendo game. It's like it's so Nintendo-y.
Yeah, I'm playing through it at the moment, so I'm quite in. I'm kind of enjoying it, but it's got some real bad performance problems. But we'll talk about that another time. Okay. Yeah.
So
I'm just.
Do you think while you look that up, do you think they're going to make a point of show off a bunch of publisher and developer names and say, look, we've got third-party games coming. Look at these third-party games. Or do you think they're just going to be like, nah, I don't care?
I think that they will do. I think they will do something about at least third parties, and I imagine most of it will probably be around porting of existing titles, rather than necessarily new IP. But yeah, I think that my gut feeling so far of having spent a good month now with the Switch is that yeah, it's back on form for Nintendo, and it's a platform that's distinctly separate from what the PlayStation and Xbox are trying to do, and there's good scope there for the publishers to get involved with. The other thing, the other prediction, I think there'll be a bit more with Nintendo and mobile and some of their exploits around that, and obviously they'll talk about the 3DS because they'll be very keen not to make it look like the 3DS is completely irrelevant now.
Okay. Do you think we're going to get a hardware announcement in the form of a SNES Classic Mini?
Yes. Well, whether or not they announce it here or not, I don't. I think they probably will, considering the success of the NES Mini, and yeah, I think that will be a target for Christmas this year. But I don't know if they may hold it back for one of their later shows.
I tell you what, if they do announce that, I'm gonna have to pre-order that straight away because I was super annoyed I missed out on the NES Classic. I never did get one.
I didn't bother buying a NES Classic. I know enough people who have, and it's now one of their favorite dust magnets. I've played on one, and it's like, oh, this is really cool. This is, oh yeah,
you see, at this point, I'd have thought of it as an investment, and I'd have just like, if I ever needed to make a few $100 easily, and then just flip it on eBay for whatever reason, like you could probably still make a killing out of that, especially as the older it gets, you're going to do well on eBay with that, aren't you? So
there certainly could be a collector's item, but it wouldn't surprise me at some point in the future if they just when Nintendo need cash, they'll just fire up the old manufacturing line again and start spitting some of this stuff out.
For me though, the NES Classic hits my nostalgia buttons more than the SNES Classic would hit my nostalgia buttons more than the NES did, because that's when I really got into gaming on a Nintendo, was with the SNES. So yeah, I'd be really up for that. Do you have any, I mean, you might know this better than me, but do you have any wild predictions? The only one I could come up with that could potentially be a very brief little teaser to say, look, we're working on this, would be a Metroid game.
I would love for something, another Metroid Prime style, first person shooter-esque game. Like, forget about Other M and the Federation Forcey weird thing they did on the 3DS recently. I would kill for something of that. I thought the first Metroid Prime was one of the best games I've ever played. It was incredible. Yeah, I don't think so though. I think they'll very much. I think Nintendo are always kind of conservative at these things. I don't think they'll feel the need to go too far, reel too much of their hand and stuff. So I think they'll focus very much on Mario Odyssey and stuff that they've got in the pipeline for this year, and that's kind of. I think they will play it quite safe.
Okay. So that kind of brings us to the end of the press conferences. Have you got any other kind of like wild predictions for the show itself, or anything that that might be a bit off the wall that maybe wouldn't be shown at a conference or something like that?
I wish I didn't have. It's been a busy week for me at work this week, so I haven't had enough time to put together all the research I wanted to pull together, because I think there's going to be obviously some a little bit of energy maybe with some of the indies trying to get some stuff onto some of the stands, so there could be some good stuff there. But yeah, and obviously there are going to kind of be many other smaller. The only other one was the PC gaming show.
Yeah, I didn't do that because it's kind of too nebulous almost. It's like, whoa, how can you even start with that? It could be anything, like literally anything. So
I expect, we know we got Microsoft, you got Intel, that kind of thing. So I think Microsoft will probably in their presence talk a bit more about the Windows Store and kind of their ideas for that, and maybe some of the cross-play, Play Anywhere titles and things that they've got in the pipeline coming up. So they may show some of that. But yeah,
I suppose they could announce something at the PC show that's like, but this will also be. You'd have thought this would only be on PC, but this is actually going to show up on Scorpio as well, or something. That could be a way they could get another announcement out. I suppose that would be a bit of a surprise, but yeah, I didn't really think down that avenue, to be honest.
and they may use it as a forum to talk a bit more about some of their development tools for kind of amateur, the cottage kind of people who may want to develop and deploy titles and apps across the Windows, the Xbox, and stuff like that. And they may also do some stuff around the tablet side as well, just gaming on that.
Oh, what, Surface?
Well, Surface and
in general.
They've got the Windows 10s stuff coming up, haven't they? Which is the based on Qualcomm chips rather than Intel and stuff. So it's kind of more akin to the traditional mobile stuff. So yeah, some stuff around that maybe in gaming and things. But yeah, that's about the only other. It'll be interesting to see. I know what you mean. It's going to be an absolute mixed bag, the PC show. But I think Microsoft will be keen to show that PC is very relevant as a platform to them.
I didn't even write the details down for that. Do you know what the time slot is?
Yes, it's on Monday at 6 p.m. British Standard Time. So it's if you want to tune in for that.
Overlap with our recording. In that case, as we start at 7. So I don't even consider that a thing.
We might come in hot directly from the PC gaming show.
Breaking news! Breaking news! So yeah, exactly. Just to reiterate the schedule then, guys. So basically on Sunday, we will be recording our next show, which will be about an hour long at 7 p.m. And that will be looking back at what came up on EA on the Saturday night show. And then on Monday, we will be doing it again at 7 p.m. And that will be looking back at both Bethesda and Microsoft, which will probably be, I would think, the most exciting show. But then how can we say, because on Tuesday we'll be doing a look back at Sony and Ubisoft and Nintendo, because I guess that's Tuesday at 5 p.m. so straight after that we'll basically be recording a podcast, so that will be looking back at 3 shows. That one might run a bit longer than an hour, but we'll see how it goes on that one. And then the following Saturday we'll have a bits and bobs again at 7 p.m. or maybe 5, depending on what people's availability is, but we'll see what that is. And we'll that one will be looking back at all the conferences, like a wrap up, looking at what came out of the show floor as well, any kind of crazy announcements that that didn't come out of the conferences and that sort of stuff. So lots and lots of content. And like I said at the top of the show, we'll also have write-ups and live tweeting for the conferences as well. And if anybody feels like writing anything else, that will also be appearing on the site as well. So lots of stuff for E3, and hopefully this year we won't have downtime like we did last year, which was the worst timing ever for problems with the site to rear up. And because of course Sod's Law it did. So that's what always happens. But yeah, so lots of content, lots of stuff. Joel, is there anything you wanted to add before we sign off for the night?
That takes us through our predictions. We'll be back again very soon, like you say. I'm just looking forward to some of these presentations. Let's see what we get.
Yeah, I'll keep the written bits and bobs we've got for the predictions here on the doc in case when we talk about the conferences we are wildly wrong on any of it. Though I think this year, for the most part, it's some pretty easy, quite easy to predict stuff. I mean, there's always surprises, always, but I think there's a lot of stuff that's quite obviously going to appear at these conferences. The nature of being mid-cycle, it kind of means that there won't be a huge amount of shocks, but there are always a few surprises, always a few. So that's why we watch these things live. So, yes, exciting time starting tomorrow night at EA. Should be good. So that's me signing us off then. You can find me at Twitter at DIYE. You can find me the website, Twitter as well, Bxb Games. Obviously at Facebook, Bxb Games. The website itself is bxbgames.co.uk. Joel famously doesn't have social media because he doesn't want to share, because he's a mean weirdo. That's actually probably some kind of serial killer or something. I don't know. Yeah.
Just
fair,
an
Joel?
Introvert. Just an introvert.
You don't share. You just
closet psycho.
Closet psycho. Well, aren't we all? And on that note, I'll be speaking to you all again, me and Joel, a couple of days. So bye-bye for now.
See you all.
Bye.